Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Saturday, April 25th. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you, ready to break down the Saturday Stanley Cup playoff slate. 3 games on tap, 2 with a potential sweep in play with Carolina and with Philadelphia tonight, looking to finish off their first-round matchups. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, before we get into last night's recap, first of all, round of applause last night to the 3 home venues, the 3 centers of the hockey universe, I guess you could say, last night. Bell Center, Delta Center, Honda Center last night. Your crowds couldn't have been better. I mean, you talk about crowds and home environments that enhanced their team's ability to win the game. All 3 of them did it, and all 3 of them did it in spades. Well done, Montreal. Well done, Utah. Well done, Anaheim last night, as all 3 home teams were victorious last night in the Friday night Stanley Cup playoff action. We started Montreal. I mean, nobody does it better than them as far as getting you ready for the game, as far as doing something unique, creative, special before a big game starts. And it doesn't get much better than the great legend at, I think he's 82 years old, Yvon Cornwallis, coming out, holding the torch, and there you see it, almost like lighting the flame, and then you see the flame emblems all over on the video screens all over the arena, with the Habs coming out onto the ice. The crowd, the ole, ole, ole chants, which are common, of course, from Montreal Canadiens fans with their home games. It's about as loud as I've ever heard them right before the anthems were performed. I mean, it was just a fucking bonkers atmosphere and environment at the Bell Center with that game. And the game was tremendous stuff. Maybe not as physical or chippy, not as many scrums, obviously, as we saw in Game 1 and in Game 2. But Montreal got the first goal. Tampa punched back, tied it at 1. Tampa then took a 2-1 lead, and great resolve shown by the Habs to just battle back, find a way. They tied the game, obviously, by a score of 2-2, or tied the game 2-2 in the second period. We went scoreless in the third. And by the way, that's 3 games and 3 overtime games. The draw cashing in all 3 games in this series. It was a great game. There was good goaltending both sides, Dobish and Vasilevsky. It was certainly a fun. There was one big scrum, obviously, but you're right. It was a little tamer game from a physical standpoint last night. And then, of course, in overtime, that's why we tell Lane Hutson, shoot the fucking puck half the time, because he's got a better shot than people think. He does have a good shot. He's just such an elite passer, and that's his number one skill set. It's almost like he forgets to shoot the puck sometimes, and he should, because, everybody plays the pass with Lane Hutson. And I think even he's realizing that. If they are going to play the pass and expect me to pass the puck, once in a while there's going to be a lane to the net where I got to shoot it. And he was able to do that last night, getting the puck through, beating Vasilevsky. Didn't even see it for the overtime winner. Montreal 3, Tampa 2 to take a 2-1 lead in that series. That was a very good game from a betting standpoint for me. We had Montreal goal in the first period, Montreal first goal first period, Montreal team total over 2.5, thanks to them winning in OT. That cashes the best bet on the show yesterday. Pretty good results overall. The only thing missing was, God damn it, Josh Anderson, my bargain bin special. Holy shit, how many chances did that guy have last night to make it 3 straight games with a goal? He had a couple of glorious looks. He came out of the penalty box, had a breakaway on Vasilevsky, and couldn't stuff it home. That's the only negative about that game betting-wise. Otherwise, the result was great. And Alex, a huge win for Montreal. And God damn, what an atmosphere last night at the Bell Center.
We were anticipating it, and it absolutely delivered. It's funny for me on the betting side. I actually got kind of the pathways mixed up with Utah and Montreal. I thought Montreal was going to kind of play a more dominant first period, had that 2-0 lead. That ended up being in Utah. Both teams, the score ended up happening with Montreal and Tampa Bay. So that, unfortunate for my best bet. But yeah, both, great atmospheres. And like I said, Montreal, that's a huge win. Another overtime victory too. 3 in a row for the draw. So that's those of you who've been riding that's kudos to you guys. That's definitely a series, like I said, that now they have in the catbird seat. And That's an atmosphere that could be duplicated. I don't expect them to fall off the way we saw the maybe a little bit of a calmer crowd in game 2 and say Buffalo as opposed to their game 1. I could see that same kind of intensity and energy right back there, and Montreal could easily ride that to another victory.
I agree. There's no off nights with that crowd in Montreal, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think they're going to be buzzing. I think they're going to be amped. They're going to be, blowing the roof off the place once again in Game 4, just like they did last night. Oh, and by the way, we got to give Kirby Dach a lot of credit, and we got to give Marty St. Louis credit. Everybody, myself included, calling for him to get benched, calling for him to be a healthy scratch last night after the glaring mistakes he made at the end of Game 2. But he responded in the right way, had a great game for the Montreal Canadiens, obviously scored the tying goal to tie it up at 2. What a bounce-back performance from Kirby Dach. Good for him, man. It's been a tough go for him. He struggled to score. He had that terrible ending to Game 2. People have really been getting frustrated. The coach stuck by him, and look, that's why he's Marty St. Louis, and I'm not. He made the right decision there to keep him in the lineup, and it paid off. He had a great game last night. Good to see that, considering how much he had been struggling for the Habs. Utah, you talk about coming out of the gate storming. Wow, they certainly did that. 2-0 lead in the first period for Utah. They ended up getting, and Mackenzie Weegar, shout out to Rob Schremp. Holy mackerel, what a call from him. Bargain bin special yesterday. Our guest, plus 900 with that. So we do cash a bargain bin thanks to our guest, Rob Schremp, who was on the show with us on Friday. With that, 1-0, a shot from the point that beats Carter Hart. Dylan Guenther, he's got one of the best releases, one of the best shots in the NHL. What a freaking one-timer that was to make it 2-0 Utah. No chance there for Carter Hart. Vegas controlled more of the flow at times in that game, and they outshot Utah, believe it or not, by a pretty decent amount, but they just couldn't make anything of it. Vanelka, I think, probably his best game of the series. He was really good, even though he gave up 2 goals. I mean, he was very, very solid, and it was a step back for Carter Hart last night. Not one of his better games there. I thought the third goal was a bit of an iffy goal that he gave up. That's one he probably should have had. The fourth goal, I don't know what he could have done about, but Dylan Guenther, great game. Lawson Krause, huge game from him for the Utah Mammoth last night. The place was going bonkers. It was just great to see that. And remember, the Delta Center crowd, they're really close to the ice circle. Yep. So it almost feels like it's even louder because of the acoustics and because of just the setup of where the stands are, the seats are in the Delta Center. And it was just a very, very loud environment. I mean, it's crazy that Vegas, at the end of the day, they gave up, I think, a franchise best 12 shots on goal for a playoff game is what I was seeing. Jesse Granger, who covers the team, posts that. Fewest shots that they've given up in a playoff game, 12, and they lose 4-2. 4 of them go in. I mean, wow, that just tells you it wasn't their night. But Utah, man, that's why I liked Utah last night. Feed off the home crowd. Utah first goal, first period. That was another great betting result. That cashed. Utah goal in the first. We had the over 5.5 in that game as well. Utah money line. So I just thought that they really were better in Game 2. They'd ride that wave into Game 3, and they did that. And you can say, okay, Vegas outshot them, but Utah was more opportunistic. Utah is burying their chances easier than Vegas is right now. Vegas has to generate more to score right now than Utah does. And they're still having some concerns, Vegas, defending this Utah team. When they get zipping that puck around, it has been difficult at times, even for this vaunted Golden Knights blue line to handle it. But Alex, another great home environment, and Utah in their first home playoff game, their first home playoff win.
Yeah, and now they have a 2-1 series lead, which is something that I bet before the series began. Got a plus 175 winner with that, along with, like I said, first goal, first period. It just made sense. It lined up the way that Vegas had played heading into this postseason. It just made sense that, okay, Utah can certainly steal one in Vegas, and that they would have that intense atmosphere backing them along in Game 3. And Vegas looked kind of cooked after that first period. I was shocked at their response. I wasn't shocked by Utah's response. I was more shocked by Vegas actually looking kind of, cowering around that atmosphere and kind of playing, out of sorts. I thought they were going to be able to accept that challenge. And like I said, it's a slower team at times, and Utah's been able to, get that speed advantage great passing as well. We talk about that all the time about how important it is to have clean, crisp passing. Utah has probably been one of the better passing teams in the West so far this postseason, and they've certainly displayed that against Vegas.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, Vegas, they're in one. And speaking of teams that are in one, the Edmonton Oilers are in one last night. And there's another great building, man. I mean, I think we all thought, Montreal was going to be lit. Utah was going to be lit. I was a little less sure of Anaheim, what kind of crowd we were going to get, but that was their first time in a home playoff game in 8 years at the Honda Center. They brought it too. Holy man. I honestly think that crowd sounded louder last night than they were when they got to the Stanley Cup final in 2007 against Ottawa. I don't remember the crowd being that loud during that Cup final, 20 years ago. It was loud last night. Holy mackerel. Well done to the Ducks fans there at the Honda Center. The theme of this game is quite simple. The Edmonton Oilers completely and utterly embarrassed themselves at the defensive end of the ice last night. It was ridiculous how bad it was. It's shameful. I mean, and it's unbelievable to see a team play that way defensively and think this team actually got to the Stanley Cup final and got to Game 7 of it, a couple of years ago, playing like this defensively with no care no care about responsibility with the puck, managing the puck. None of that was on display for Edmonton last night. They gave up 39 shots, which is ridiculous. That can't happen against a team with the skill, the firepower of the Anaheim Ducks. It was a turnover machine all night for the Edmonton Oilers. It was a fucking odd man rush bonanza for the Anaheim Ducks all night. How many freaking breakaways and odd man rushes did the Edmonton Oilers give up last night? That was absolutely atrocious. Horrific defending. And I'm telling you what, Evan Bouchard, man, that's another terrible night for him. Absolutely hideous night. And we've said this before. He's such a great offensive talent as a blue liner that you live with the warts defensively. I don't know how much Chris Knoblauch can live with them much longer. That was hideous from him last night. Multiple gaffes, multiple turnovers, multiple breakdowns in coverage when he was on the ice for the Edmonton Oilers last night. So it was a dismal defending all night long from this Edmonton team, and Anaheim took advantage of it. And even when they were down 1-0 in the first period, Anaheim just swarmed Edmonton early. They turned it around, got the 2-1 lead before the end of the first. I think that was significant. Edmonton bounces back 3-2. You think, maybe the Oilers are taking control. But no, here come the defensive woes and blunders and giving up odd man rushes. You know what killed Edmonton last night, Alex? This is it. Of all the blunders, all the defensive issues, loss of coverage, giving up odd man rushes, turnovers at the offensive blue line last night. Killer for Edmonton. How many times did they do that? Bobble pucks at the offensive blue line. And when you feed transition to a team that fast, team with that kind of youth and speed and skill, like the Anaheim Ducks, you're asking for trouble. It's exactly what happened on the Seneca goal that made it 4-3. That's exactly what happened on the Leo Carlsson goal right after that, 5-3. The turnovers at the blue line, offensive blue line, both times. You cannot give the puck away in that area of the ice when that team's got that speed, that firepower, that kind of youth to it. And it absolutely crushed them, destroyed them. What the hell's Ekholm doing too? What a horrible night for him. And that's bad. They need Matthias Ekholm to be sound, sturdy, defensively. He's one of the few guys that's actually pretty damn solid in his own end. He had a horrible night. What the hell is he doing on the VL goal that put the game out of reach, 6-4? What the hell was he doing there? Terrible playing in his own zone by him. So just a complete and utter disaster defensively, Alex, for Edmonton.
But it also says a lot of how the Oilers have changed over the years, because the Oilers were usually the fastest team in the league. The Oilers were a team that even if they were to make those kinds of mistakes, they would be fast enough to catch up to them.
They could outskate and outscore their mistakes. Not when you're playing a team like this. That's what we're finding out right now.
Yeah, that's what we're finding out now. They're showing their age. They're showing their wear and tear from the last few years, as well as just not playing good hockey. So when you have that combination and you got a young, hungry team that's well coached, that's well seasoned, and they're standing up to the moment so far in these first 3 games, it's going to cause trouble for Evans.
Yeah. So, I agree with that. And plus, by the way, Joel Quenneville's just pushing more right buttons than Chris Knoblauch right now.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. And that's absolutely what we're seeing as well. And I applaud Coach Q because he's given his team the green light to play a track meet kind of series. And it's because he kind of thinks his team can beat Edmonton, play it like it. If we slow things down against Edmonton, we're letting their, shaky defense off the hook. I think that's the way. If we ramp up the pace, we go fire wagon hockey, push the puck in transition, we're going to get our chances. We're going to get our goals. I think he sees we play this way and we ramp things up like this. We can make mincemeat of this Oilers team defensively. And so far through 3 games, they have.
Those of us who are Hawks fans that remember the Showtime Dynasty, if you go back, the defensive series, those were the conference finals, those were the cup finals, those are those clinching games. First round games were absolutely batshit crazy some of those years that we won. I think about it, if we look at the anniversary, I see it on Twitter. This is the anniversary week of 2010 with the Nashville series, where Marian Hossa takes a dumb 5-minute penalty. Patrick Kane gets the tying goal with seconds left, and then Hossa gets out of the box and wins it. It was a 5-4 track meet. There's a lot of open-ended games that Q had, and like I said, he let his team run with that. Now, if Anaheim advances, there's no way you're going to see this kind of pace in game 1 of round 2. They're going to try and make an emphasis on playing more defensive hockey because that's what it takes to win going down the stretch. But for right now, let it fly. I say that pun intended with Anaheim right now.
Yeah, no doubt. And like I said, I thought McDavid was a little bit better last night. That's the good sign. He did finally get on the board, 2 points, 1 goal, 1 assist, bit of a quiet 2 points when it's all said and done. But like I said, it's been really a nightmare. And you know what's funny is that it's a good point by Nick. Some of their best forwards haven't been McDavid, have been the likes. But you know who their number 1 forward's been in this series? Vasily Podkolzin. He's been terrific. He scored. He's assisted. He's been piling up points. Shots on goal prop cashed again last night. He's gotten in fights. He showed a little, at the end of the game, a little emotion, hey, we're not going to go down lightly, losing this game 7-4, fighting Jeff Viel at the end. And plus Viel plowed McDavid right into the glass and earlier in the game. That's what got him. I think that's why he went after Viel. Viel did hit McDavid pretty heavily into the boards earlier in the game. But credit to Podkolzin for doing that. Well done by him. I've been impressed with Podkolzin. He's showing me he's a good team guy. He stepped up and tried to fight a couple of times in various scenarios in recent weeks. So credit to him. But now it's back to the drawing board. All I heard out of the Oilers. Now, here's the thing. We've been cashing these overs in this series. 3 straight overs. By the way, no sweat with the Jonathan Davis approach as well. Both teams to score 3 goals, which was plus money. Last night we talked about maybe bet that instead of over 6.5 because it was so heavily juiced. So that hit easily. Game 4, I might be a little more cautious betting the over because everything out of Edmonton's mouth post-game, Knobloch, Zach Hyman, every player that was interviewed was, we got to get this thing slowed down, tighten up. But it's almost like I got to see it before I believe it. They're going to try to slow it down. They're going to try to turn this into more of a 3-1, 3-2 type of game. But are they capable of it? The Edmonton Oilers right now. That's going to end up being the question. It's one of these deals where, they're going to try to do that. Will they? So it's still to me over or pass in that series. And I'd probably still go back to both teams to score in the first period of game 4 as it's cashed easily again.
That's what it kind of feels like. It feels like it could be a first period over, both teams to score, and then that's when you bet it live to slow down.
Yeah. If it slows down, and that's still a big if. They can talk they got to show it. That they can slow down and stop turning it over and stop, turnovers at the blue line, stop giving up odd man rushes. And right now, that's still a big if right now for this Edmonton Oilers team. But give Anaheim credit. I'm so impressed with this group, especially because, look, I was scared shitless about Anaheim coming into this series with how bad they were down the stretch. And for them to find it like this and be up 2 games to 1. And I know who else is enjoying this now. They haven't won anything yet. There's still 2 wins to go. And the one thing about Edmonton, as bad as it looks, we've been here before with Edmonton the last 2 years, where it's really looking like they're on against the ropes, where they're at the edge of the cliff and they're about to get pushed over. They have been a very good response to adversity team. That when their backs are against, look at LA last year in the first round. Tons of instances where they've been down 2-0, 2-1 in a series, and it's been looking bad, and they've found a way to win. So we can't write off Edmonton yet. There's still a long series to go and still 2 wins to go for Anaheim, but 2 wins away from some sweet revenge for one Jay Woodcroft, assistant coach of the Anaheim. And how much is his assistant coaching maybe helping Anaheim in this series? Who knows the Edmonton Oilers players like Jay Woodcroft? It's not like the team's turned over the roster much. since, he was the head coach there before they fired him and brought Knobloch in. He knows a lot of those players very well, and you got to think that intel is helping Anaheim from a coaching standpoint and preparation standpoint.
Yeah. Also, it'd be nice to see Coach Hugh beating Stan Bowman, too.
Yeah, no doubt. Stan Bowman. Yeah, Joel Quenneville trying to hurt his old GM. That's right. Stanley Bowman in this series. So, yeah, lots of storylines. And that series has been bonkers. Jack Michaels said it. This hasn't been the best played series, but I would argue with you it's got to be the most exciting series.
Right.
And, yes, I think that's where we're at with Edmonton, Anaheim. No question about it. All right, let's get into Saturday. That was a great night, by the way. It couldn't have gone much better. A huge night, which we needed. It was a great Wednesday, bit of a downer on Thursday, but a really nice night last night. See if we can roll it into Saturday, where the Carolina Hurricanes will look to break out the brooms and sweep away the Ottawa Senators in Canada's capital. We've got Carolina minus 125, road favorites, 5.5 the total. Carolina up 3-0 in the series. It's Carolina or nothing for me. Really, I mean, if you're going to bet Ottawa, bet first goal, first period, or first period goal. That's what you look at. Because if they're going to throw something at Carolina, it's got to happen right away. You can't get behind this Carolina team. We've seen it in this series. That's the approach. And I might do that, but that's all I'm doing with Ottawa. I might dabble in a small first goal, first period at a better price than what we're seeing right now. Maybe a goal in the first period, because this is a team that's at home, backs against the wall, facing elimination. And we made note of the stats yesterday, and I can back it up and verify that it's true. Teams on the road up 3-0 have had a harder time sweeping a series than teams at home up 3-0. The teams at home up 3-0 have done a better job sweeping the series. A lot of times when it's a 3-0 road team that's up 3-0 looking to sweep, it's more often they've lost and it's gone back to game 5. Not saying that's going to happen today, but I just wanted to point out those trends. The Ottawa goal in the first period's minus 140. I'm going to dabble slightly in that, wait for it to drop a bit and add a little more. That's going to be my plan. A little bit on the Ottawa first goal, first period. And if that happens, I'm not betting Carolina now. My approach is, if that happens, Ottawa first goal, first period, and or Ottawa gets the first goal, I'm live betting Carolina. That's exactly what I'm going to be looking to do. That's my process and approach for this game. Clear as day. I want Ottawa to get the first goal, particularly in the first period, and I'm going to look to live bet Carolina. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Now, these elimination games, we know there could be extended empty net time if Ottawa's trailing late in the third, the season on the line. So you could see Travis Green with an earlier goaltender pull of Linus Ullmark in this game. So what I would say is, when it's a full game total, it's either over or pass in these elimination games. But obviously, this could be a game that starts out slow. What I would say is, I'm not betting over 5.5 pregame, but I'm going to look at it live. If it starts off slow, you're going to get a better live number. And what I would say is, if Ottawa's trailing at any point during this game, look to a live over, because they've got to open up. They have zero choice. They're going home if they lose. And then if Ottawa's trailing as well, what makes the live over such a smart look in my mind is that you're going to have a greater chance of the empty net late for an extended period of time, and there's your chance to hit that live over. And they'll pull the goalie again, even if they're down 2, or even if they're down 3 Ottawa, they'll probably pull Linus Ullmark late in that third. So that's something to look at. Live over, especially if Ottawa's trailing. And another thing I did today, Alex, I went to FanDuel. We know we've got 2 elimination games. We've talked about third period overs on this show for years. I just did a parlay of the 2 elimination games today. Okay. Ottawa, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Philly, over 1.5, just so I could get 1.5 with both of them.
Right.
Yeah, over 1.5 third period for Carolina, Ottawa, for Pittsburgh, Philly, parlayed them together, plus 114 at FanDuel. Oh, nice. So that's a pretty good price. I think that's just better because it's 2 pretty much painted across the board with the total right now for the third period. So parlaying the over 1.5 third period of Carolina, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, Philly, plus 114. Alex, what do you think here, Carolina, Ottawa?
I certainly endorse that as well, but I was going to mention about the split of the third period overs at BetMGM. Of course, you can get flat 2s. For this one, there's a flat 2 minus $1.10. I did bet that. You can also get 2.5 plus $1.50 on both games at FanDuel. I did not bet that with this game. I did take that with Flyers and Penguins, but yeah, mark me down for that over 1.5 parlay in the third period. And I also like at BetMGM, you can have the empty net goal props. empty net goal. It's a yes market, one-way market, plus 135. Or you can go with either team to get the empty net goal. For the Canes, to wrap it up, I like plus 295. So that's where I'm going with third period over 2 minus $1.10 at MGM. Canes to score empty net goal plus 295 at MGM. And also at MGM, empty net goal in the game. Yes, plus 135.
That's right. I forgot about that. The empty net markets. You better believe I'm going to bet empty net goal now. Yeah, that's another thing. I'm going to look to empty. And what you can do is you can go at just empty to score any empty net goal. You could just bet for an empty net goal, or you could bet the team specifically, which team specifically to score the empty net goal. So what I would do probably in this game is do a little split. I wouldn't put it all on Carolina specifically to score an empty net goal. But I would probably split it between a little on Carolina to score the empty net goal and just for an empty net goal in the game. So that is definitely a market you want to look at, the empty net goal prop. A Lady Valeria asking, where do you find that prop? I know I bet it at BetMGM, Alex. Anywhere else you've seen it?
That BetMGM's the best spot for that. I haven't checked if Caesars or Rivers has it. So.
Yeah. Prop-wise, I mean, do I even have to utter the words Logan Stankoven anymore? I don't think I have to. So, and what I mean by Logan Stankoven props is everything. Shots on goal, because he's gone over his shots on goal every game. Goal in every game. Assist, I believe, in almost every game too. 11-game point streak for him. You could just go with the point and the goal because he scored in every game. The first goal of the game, he has scored in 3 straight. So I'm sprinkling in that. I hope I'm not a day late with this, but I'm going to sprinkle on the first goal for Logan Stankoven here for the Carolina Hurricanes as well. Taylor Hall has gone over his shots on goal at 1.5 in every game, minus 135. Jordan Martinook has gone over 1.5 shots on goal every game in the series, plus 115. And as we mentioned, Stankoven over 2.5 shots on goal every game in the series. I think Blake could be worth a look, over 2.5 shots, plus 150 for him. And he's gone over in 2 of the last 3 games in this series. Cousins, he'd be someone I'd be looking at for goal props, shots props. He's gone over 2.5 shots in back-to-back games for the Ottawa Senators. And I think if anyone's going to finally get something going offensively for Ottawa today, it's the workhorse from Whitehorse, because it almost feels like Ottawa's got to fucking work to score a goal against this Carolina team. And who exemplifies work ethic better than Dylan Cousins on this Ottawa team? So Dylan Cousins definitely could be someone to target for goal prop. Drake Batherson's been the one Senator that's been popping in the goals in this series. He's scored in back-to-back games for them. So I wouldn't mind argue with a point prop there. Taylor Hall on a 3-game point streak in the series. Jackson Blake on a 3-game point streak in the series. Keandre Miller, believe it or not, goals in back-to-back game, or points, I should say, in back-to-back games. And you're getting a hell of a point price for him, like plus 240. So there's some good props here in this Carolina-Ottawa game. Blocked shots, Sean Walker, back-to-back games with blocked over 1.5. Jacob Slavin, back-to-back games over 1.5 blocked shots as well. Thomas Chabot, maybe you look toward him on the Ottawa side. I am definitely going to roll with, we'll see who's in net. I keep thinking maybe this could be Brandon Bussey getting a start. I don't think it's a cinch that Frederick Anderson will play here. I could see this being the rest day, especially being up 3-0. Even if you lose, you go back home, you're up 3-1. You can finish it there. But Brandon Bussey could get the start. I'm not saying for sure. But and Rod Brindamore said he's going to ask Freddie how he feels today. And so that's why we don't know yet. So either way, Carolina goalie over saves, whoever it is. I think this is finally the day, Alex. Even though Carolina's been the kings of outshooting Ottawa in this series, this could be the day Ottawa finally tilts the shot count toward them, because they got to leave it all out there. No tomorrow. So I might be interested in the Carolina goalie, whoever it is. Shelov's, or no, I'm thinking Pittsburgh because I see Shelov's name in the chat. Anderson or Bussey for Carolina over saves. I'd be maybe looking toward that as well. Good stuff. Because it's worth noting, Allmark did not go over his saves prop in Game 3. It was the first time, I believe, that did not happen. So you can tell back home, Ottawa is not getting caved in as far as shots on goal quite like they did in the first 2 games of the series. And by the way, no Jake Sanderson, no Artem Zub for the Ottawa Senators. They're both, well, Jake Sanderson's out for sure. I don't think Artem Zub's coming back either. So a big chore on the blue line for that short-handed defense of the Ottawa Senators. All right, next up, we've got Dallas and Minnesota. Minnesota minus 135 home favorites, 5.5 the total. Dallas leading this series 2-1. I like Minnesota first goal, first period here off the tough loss in double overtime. I think because, they're at home, Grand Casino Arena gets them revved up. They have a strong start here tonight in this game. I think it's been one of these series, too, if I'm not mistaken. Hasn't it been a zigzag with the first goal of the game? No, it hasn't been. Dallas scored the first goal game 2 and game 3, so never mind that. But I think Minnesota does get on the board first. I do like the first goal, first period. It's very interesting. Because I could see Minnesota scoring the first goal in the first period, Dallas still winning the game. I kind of think, though, Minnesota will send this series back to Dallas tied at 2, but I'm not going to lay minus 135. I don't love that price enough to want to take it pregame. I'll maybe look at Minnesota live if they fall behind, but I will take Minnesota first goal, first period in this game between the Stars and the Wild. Over 5.5. I mentioned it yesterday on the show. I'm going to keep betting overs in this series below 6. I mean, every game's gone to 6 goals. Now, I know there's that long-term double overtime trend of unders off a double OT game, and it did cash in the Carolina-Ottawa game 3 off a double overtime game. That does worry me a little bit. But still, we've had 7, 6, and 7 as far as the goals in the 3 games in this series. And you go back to the regular season, 3 of those 4 games went over the total. That means you're looking at basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1 run to the over head-to-head between these two teams, playoffs and regular season combined. So I'm still going to get in on over 5.5 here, minus 1. It looks like the best price is over minus 1 over 5.5, minus 130. The best price that I see right now. You could always wait a little bit in the first period for it to drop just a bit, but that's what I'll be looking at here. But yeah, Minnesota, first period, first goal, first period, and the over 5.5 are the primary looks here. Maybe the draw, but I don't know if it'll go to overtime in back-to-back games necessarily. Alex, what do you think here? Game 4, Dallas, Minnesota.
It's very important for the Wild to get the first goal,
yes,
the first period in this contest, and I do like that at plus 125. But I don't. If we see both teams to score in the first period, which I like it also at plus 180, I think that's where things can maybe slow down a little bit. Like you said, that's where that double overtime look might come into play. So I have it where I'm going to be looking for a live under in game, and it's contingent on both plays hitting. Wild scoring first, Dallas scoring second. Then I'll be looking for a live under. But those are my 3 plays for this one. Yeah, first goal, first period, and both teams score in the first. Like I said, plus 180. It's a decent price.
All right, good stuff. Prop-wise here for Dallas and Minnesota, I think this is a game where, obviously, look, we've actually seen Volstead go over his saves prop in all 3 games, but I'm going to go with Ottinger over saves tonight this afternoon, because this has to be, Minnesota really emptying the clip, if you will. They don't want to go down 3-1 back to the Lone Star State. So I'm definitely interested there. Jason Robertson, no shocker here that he scored in both games so far against the Minnesota Wild. That's just what he does. Wyatt Johnston with the power play goal. He scored in each of the last 2 games, as has Matt Duchene for the Dallas Stars. So those are the players that kind of have it rocking and rolling right now for them. We've got 3-game point streaks for Robo, Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, Joel Eriksson-Ek, 3-game point streak, Miro Heiskanen. That's the value. We're starting to get good value. Heiskanen actually has a point in each of the first 3 games in this series, and you're only laying $1.25 for Miro Heiskanen to get a point for the Dallas Stars. That's definitely something that might be worth a look here as well. And blocked shots. Jonas Brodin, he's blocked over 1.5 shots 6 straight games. Thomas Harley's gone over 1.5 block shots back-to-back games. Tyler Myers over 2.5 block shots back-to-back games. Jared Spurgeon over 1.5 shots back-to-back games. But I'd look more toward the Dallas players. I'd look toward Lindell, too. Lindell is a shot-blocking machine. They're going to have more shot blocks today because I think Minnesota will carry the flow a little bit more at home, down 2-1 here in this game today. So Dallas block shot props, certainly a decent target here in this one. Also going to look toward, I'm still going to look at Ritskovian and Bork on Dallas for goal props just because they're on the top 6 still for this team. And for Minnesota, a little quiet in the last game, even though it went to double overtime. But Ryan Hartman possibly here for me. I do have some interest. This feels like a game he's got to score. I think I've noticed that too. When Ryan Hartman does something for Minnesota, usually good things happen for the team. So I'm going to see if Ryan Hartman can be.
This feels like a game where Ryan Hartman takes a dumb penalty. Honestly.
And we get that every game. So I don't know. We see that every freaking night pretty much with that guy. And he took a couple the other night that were, egregious, kind of silly penalties. But like I said, this has been a great series. It's been, game one was a bit of a dud. We were stunned that Minnesota just dominated like that. But the last two games in this series have been great hockey games. So hopefully we see another one here in Minnesota today. All right, last game of this Saturday slate, we got the Keystone State rivalry. Who saw this? Yeah, Brock Faber shots on goal and maybe even point, Robert. I like that. That's actually, I could see him making an impact too. I know Quinn Hughes is the star on that blue line, but nevertheless, Brock Faber, I think he could be someone, point prop, maybe even a small goal prop sprinkle there. Philadelphia minus 120, home favorites, 5.5 the total. This is the one I'm like, I think because of the state of Ottawa, I actually think Carolina could sweep them. But we did mention the road teams have a harder time sweeping, went up 3-0 than home teams. This one, I don't know if there's a road back for Pittsburgh. Like, I really don't. And now Dan Muse at this moment is going to switch goaltenders and go to Arturs Shilovs here in game 4, who's had a, inconsistent season. He hasn't had a great season for Pittsburgh, and he's getting thrown in here in a must-win game facing elimination. And you're taking – say what you will about Skinner. Game 1 was not his fault. Game 2 was not his fault. Now, the Ristolainen shot, bad goal. And the Sealer shot from the point, he didn't pick it up. Maybe I would have wanted him to pick it. It wasn't a horrible goal, but it's not the best goal to give up. So I get it. Game 3 was not a Stuart Skinner Rembrandt by any stretch of the imagination. But it's still a big fucking risk to take out a guy he's still gotten to a cup final 2 years in a row, and lots of playoff experience to go to Shilovs here in this situation. Now, Shilovs did get into playoff duty with Vancouver for Rick Tocchet 2 years ago. But you could also look at it and say, well, and he was pretty solid. He gave them some decent goaltending, Vancouver.
And then after that,
Shilovs, Tocchet does, and he's coaching against him here tonight. Yeah.
But then you have after that, Shilovs did go on to win a Calder Cup.
Yes.
Did. which and for what it's worth, the path that which a Pacific Division team needs to take to win the Calder Cup is absolutely insane because that playoff format's batshit crazy. So, you can kind of take that into consideration as well.
Yeah. So I don't know what to think about this. I still feel it's a little bit of a panic button move by Dan Muse here, but I get it from the sense of a couple of those goals, and the margins are slim. You're not scoring. You're having a hard time. Like all Pittsburgh's goals were power play in game 3, both of them. They're not doing squat, bubkus, jack shit in even strength, 5-on-5 in this series offensively, Pittsburgh. So the margins are thin and slim, and I think Dan Muse says we can't afford even one bad goal to go in on our goaltender. And that Ristolainen shot in particular, that's a bad one. That's a stink bomb for Stuart Skinner the other night, letting that in. So okay, we'll see if it works. I don't know how this is going to go for Shilovs. I could actually see him being great, having an amazing game for one night. Everyone rallies around the goalie change, and they extend this series to game 5. I could also see 5-1 Philly, something like that. I mean, I think there's a vast array of potential conclusions to this game here tonight. Here's the way I'm going to approach it. I'm going to run it back like I did in game 3, Alex. I will take Pittsburgh goal in the first period, Pittsburgh first goal, first period, and I'm taking Philly full game, though, just like the last game. And that's exactly what happened. Pittsburgh got the first goal, but unlike Pittsburgh, Philly can come back when they're trailing in this series. Pittsburgh hasn't proven that. Pittsburgh, every time they get behind, that's it. See you later. Game over. Because Philadelphia's put the Anaconda chokehold clamps down on them defensively throughout this series. So I'm going to run it back with an approach that worked perfectly for me in game 3. We'll take Pittsburgh at the score in the first goal, first period as well. And I'll take Philadelphia a little bit pregame, full game money line. But if Pittsburgh gets that first goal, I'll live bet more Flyers if Pittsburgh gets on the board first. That's my approach. I'll also take over 5.5. We finally saw an over for the first game in this series in game 3. I'll take that over 5.5 pregame. And obviously, I've got the third period over 1.5 parlay this game, along with Carolina, Ottawa. Alex, game 4, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia.
Yeah, I like goals here, and I think this is the end of the road for the Penguins. And I was just thinking about it. Okay, it's not shocking for Sidney Crosby to get swept. There's been all the greats have gotten. Gretzky's been swept. Patrick Kane has been swept. You go down the line, Mark Messier, all these guys. It's happened to them in their careers, and Philly is just outplaying them in every facet of the way. And I feel like with an opened up game, and we kind of thought at the beginning of the series that the way Pittsburgh had been playing heading into the series with the high over trend that, if the game's got to really open up, it's going to be Pittsburgh's kind of strength. At this point now, I think the Flyers can beat Pittsburgh either way they want to. They want to make this a 2-1, 3-1 drag-out fight. We know they can play that way. But I think at this point, if it is 5-2, 6-2, that gives the advantage to the Flyers. So I have the over 5.5, minus 120. I went third period over 2.5, plus 150 over at FanDuel. There is a minus 120 on a flat 2 over at MGM. And then I went with Flyers to score empty net goal, plus 280. Empty net goal at any point, plus 125. Both of those again at BetMGM.
That's what I love about the elimination games. We got the empty net goal props back in our lives. It's a great thing, and we've cashed a bunch of them. I find in the elimination games, believe it or not, the empty net goal percentages go up significantly. You're going to get the odd one where you get teams missing it, but it's just with such a larger amount of time in these
multiple chances.
Yeah,
longer time and multiple chances. You have goal guys, coaches who say fuck it, and they'll pull a goalie 3 times in a row.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with Bruce here in the chat. They are. It's just physically beating down and wearing down Pittsburgh. And remember, there's a lot of tread on the tires of a lot of their veterans. Carlson, Letang, Crosby, Malkin, even Rust. He's not a spring chicken anymore. He's been around a long time. These are guys. He was around for their last cup, I think. The Nashville and San Jose Cups. Rust was on
rookie. He was a rookie then.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not a young man anymore. And you could tell. And you can tell Pittsburgh's got it going. Porter Martone, you got to keep going. 9 games in a row with a point. Goal prop, assist prop, point prop, whatever you want to look at for Porter Martone. It makes sense in my mind for sure. For any sort of props for Porter Martone here. Zegras has been good. You look toward him perhaps here in this one. Noah Cates scored last game. Maybe he gets rolling a little bit. I think I am going to take Dan Vladar over saves, though, because Pittsburgh's got to throw everything at the net, and he has gone over his saves prop in back-to-back games. And, yes, he has, Dan Vladar, that is, been cleared to play tonight. He is going to start for the Flyers. There was some concern. Rick Tocchet spoke to the media yesterday saying, he got injured in Game 3 in the third period. You could tell he was in some distress, but he finished the game. Well, he was in a little discomfort yesterday, and there was some consideration that maybe he wouldn't be able to start tonight for the Flyers, and that they'd have to go with Sam Ersson instead. But no, it is Dan Vladar. Apparently he's feeling better at the morning skate today, and he will be good to go for the Philadelphia Flyers, which is huge news for them because, gosh, he has been phenomenal so far here in these playoffs. Jamie Drysdale, 100% with Pittsburgh. We think going to have to throw everything they can at the net toward Dan Vladar. Jamie Drysdale over 1.5 block shots makes sense, and he's gone over 1.5 block shots in all 3 games in this series. Sanheim's gone over 1.5 block shots in the last 2 games in this series. Those are definitely some considerations as far as that is concerned. And here's a little sneaky one. Sean Couturier for the Philadelphia Flyers. He's gotten a point now in 2 straight games for the and Tippett as well for the Flyers. Tippett's point prop is only minus 105. Sean Couturier, the captain of the Flyers, he actually has points in back-to-back games, and his point prop is like plus 170. It's a really great price for Sean Couturier for the Philadelphia Flyers to register a point here in this game. A couple other goal props. He's on the top line with Zegras and Tippett, and he's been quiet. He's been snake bit. He's going to get on the board tonight. I feel it. Tyson Forster. I think it's time for Tyson Forster to find the back of the net here for the Philadelphia Flyers. It wouldn't shock me if he gets on the board. And I think for Pittsburgh here, if you're going to look at goal props, I mean, you have to hope Sidney Crosby has a big game for you. I'd maybe look at Sheenakov and Mantha on those second and third lines. It's hard, though, because Pittsburgh, the puck just hasn't been going in. But if I were to get involved with some Penguins props, I'd look in that direction. All right, great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday show, almost 400 of you. Make sure you check out wizardsportspicks.com, NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, MLB, and more at wizardsportspicks.com. And, of course, patreon.com/iceguys, $10 per month. Goalie charts, totals charts, daily betting cards, sides totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. And what a night it was for the Patreon card last night. Outstanding results. And of course, Dub Club, all sports $50 off discount for 1 month. All sports with me at Dub Club is available only to Patreon members. That offer posted on the page as well. And we do have Betcast dates coming up. Hopefully by tomorrow, we're going to lock things in for the at least one, maybe two Betcasts this week. Certainly one, and we'll make those dates known. There'll be Patreon exclusive live Betcasts once again. So again, that's been a lot of fun. We did 2 of them this past week, back-to-back nights. So make sure you get on board. Just $10 per month. Your membership goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long-term. $10 per month. Get on board for the Stanley Cup playoffs at patreon.com/iceguys.
And also check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. You got 5 days left to save 20% off of all items in the store. Hit the redeem button at the homepage. Add your items to your cart. 20% will be taken off at checkout. So it's a great time, playoff time, springtime. Great time to get a T-shirt, get a hoodie, get a couple of caps, and save 20% off for the next 5 days. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, bargain bin special of the night. Best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guy sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
All right, bargain bins, and there's my good friend in the chat. I'll be seeing him later today, watching some hockey. That'll be a lot of fun. A bargain bin special of the night. Yeah, there we go. I thought I was going to say something else, and never mind. I forgot. Anyway, bargain bin special of the night. That's all you need to know. Alex, what do you got for bargain bin special of the night?
Head up to Grand Casino Arena for Game 4. You got the Wild take on the Dallas Stars. I'm looking at one Miro Heiskanen. You mentioned he's had a point in every game. I'm going to go one step further and get him an anytime goal scorer, plus 725 over at FanDuel. So that's my one bargain bin today. Miro Heiskanen and the Dallas Stars to get a goal in Game 4.
There we go. And he's certainly been racking up the points for the Dallas Stars here in these playoffs. We'll see if he can get on the board here as far as finding the back of the net for the Dallas Stars in this game today. My bargain bin special of the night, there's a lot of interesting choices to go with. I don't think Ottawa's going to get shut out. I was tempted to go. I don't know if I will. Actually, I don't. I think I'll. You know what? I'm going to just stick with one today. I was going to go with someone from Ottawa. I'm going to say, no, I don't know about that. But I will stick with just one for this game or for the card today. And I'm going to go to. No, actually, you know what? I've taught myself into. I believe to see if the price is. No, you're not going to get that. Tyson. Noah Cates is what I'm going to go with here. Noah Cates for the Philadelphia Flyers, plus 425 at BetMGM. That's a really solid price. He scored in the last game. He's had chances in the series. I think there's a decent chance the Flyers finish it off in 4 straight. So let's rock with that. Noah Cates for the Philadelphia Flyers, plus 425 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you got for best bet?
Yeah, let's go to that first game. We got Carolina and the Senators. I like that third period over 2. You can get it now. It's minus $1.15. It has moved at BetMGM. But over 2 in the third period there with the Canes and the Sens. And that kind of shows us, even if it's going to be a game where the Ottawa fights back and holds on, I think there will be more than 2 goals in that third period. So that's my best bet there. Kane Sens, third period over 2, minus $1.15.
All right, there we go. Kane Sens, third period over 2 for Alex with his best bet. My best bet, it's going to be, I'm going to run it back with Minnesota Dallas, over 5.5, minus 130. They've gotten to 6 each time. They are coming off double overtime. Maybe the fatigue slows things down a little bit, but we've got just all the data that points that these two teams, when they meet up, you get 6 for the most part, at least, when they go head to head. And I think we'll see that again here this afternoon. Dallas, Minnesota, over 5.5, minus 130. I believe it was the best bet for me Thursday in game 3. Wednesday, I should say, in game 3. We'll see if we can hit it again here today. Stars Wild, over 5.5, minus 130 for my best bet. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And looking forward to the Saturday trifecta of Stanley Cup playoff action. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we'll see you again tomorrow on Sunday, noon Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys.